We're almost there, and we are live. And it's an absolute pleasure to introduce Molly Tschang to my podcast today, which is Mindful Leaders. And I love to speak to interesting people, interesting leaders, interesting coaches, interesting salespeople, and people that are into coaching and so on and so forth. But today, my guest star is Molly, and I've repeated it again, but that's good. A little bit about your history. I'm just going to say you're the founder of Abella, which is harnessing the power consulting Winners One, and you're also a radio host, say it Skillfully initiative, and you're also a Marshall Goldsmith certified excellent coach, leadership coach. I know there's more to it than that, and your value coaching and relationship coaching as well, and plus many more. And you've worked in IBM, and you've also worked in Cisco. And I was lucky enough to 4 years ago go to the Cisco office in just outside of San Francisco, and it was a massive place. So I was delighted to be there for my 2-week initiative all the way out to San Francisco and Silicon Valley. But you're welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Jason, it's my delight, and it's fantastic to be talking to you across the oceans. I'm sad we can't be a bit closer, and I think this is next best thing.
It is. So, Molly, can you tell me something interesting about yourself? Because I've got a list of questions to ask you, but let's keep it quite organic. Something that no one knows about you, because you've been on lots and lots of podcasts. You do your own radio show. You do your own YouTube clips. You do a lot of other things. But let's make it a little bit more organic today, and let's find something that no one knows about you.
Well, I don't know that no one knows this about me, but I do think for all the introverts out there, I'm going to do a let's unite as introverts, because I really do derive my energy from within. I'm very sociable. It's a learned skill, all my sociability, and I like people, and I like being with people. It doesn't give me as much energy as extroverts. I'll come home from a big event, and I'll just basically want to lie on the ground and look at the ceiling. So for all the introverts out there who are wondering about communicating and about being your whole self, it's totally possible. It just takes a little bit of work.
Of course. And you have an engineering background, so I've read, and that's quite intriguing, because the path that you've gone on to probably doesn't translate into where you are now, but maybe it does, because you've got a sort of mathematical head, and you can probably translate a lot of information and a lot of things about people probably in a slightly different way than probably the likes of myself.
Yeah, I am a geek at heart, and so I was a chemical engineer. My father was a double E and somewhat of a physics minor, and I always say if I was a tenth as smart as my father, I'd be doing okay. I think it's really been interesting to kind of reflect on my own self, where I come from. My mother is a registered nurse, high empathy, high intuition. Yeah. Kind of the polar opposite of my father. So it's been, as I've gone through life, and I've done a lot of really fun and cool things, I just feel like I've hit full circle and found my, secret sauce or superpower in helping. It's the chemistry of people. It's really, how do you help people be in good relationship with themselves and then with others? And if you can take care of the who and the how, then the problem solving and the what we do is so much easier. And I would go as far to say it's an 80-20 on the relationship versus the task. And I think often people's experience at work really is the opposite. You're pounded on, hit the number, make the deadline, develop this strategy. And if you really focus on the who and how we work together, I would submit to you that you get far better results, and in a way where you bring people along, people feel very fulfilled.
Of course. And I think it's going down towards that emotional intelligence field, which is massive at the moment. And so should be, because the way you connect with people is all to do with emotional intelligence, but it's also emotional intelligence with yourself as well, and how you self-speak to yourself. And I love that area. I'm fascinated with the brain, fascinated with neuroscience, fascinated with coaching and psychology and all of those areas. So for me to ask you these questions is also interesting to see how you work and how you work with other people and how you connect with other people, because that's the area I love.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, Jason. And let me just unpack. We fling the word relationship around a lot, and I would offer that you can unpack it on 3 dimensions. And one is that emotional intelligence, and that is, do you know what's going on for you? Can you articulate what's going on for you? That is your internal self-awareness. And I think of that as, if you don't know what's going on for you, it's not really someone else's job to figure out what's going on for you.
Absolutely.
It's so many times in communications, it's actually within us that's holding us back. And I think and you can know the people that you meet that are grounded in themselves. They can be angry, but they can kind of let it go. Marshall's let it go is literally one of my biggest learnings from him. Then you can step into this notion of social intelligence, which is identifying someone else's emotional experience and truly empathizing with it. Doesn't make it a right or wrong or good or bad, but that is fundamental to connection. And you bring up this connecting thing. Only if we can really relate or connect can we possibly influence. Could we then lead? And I quote Harry Kramer, who headed up Baxter International. And then the highest level is this relationship systems intelligence, which is the coaching certification I did. And that is, who are we together? And you and your wife are individuals, and there's a third entity, the couple. And each of you are in the same couple, but have a different experience of it. So you think about it at work, to be able to empathetically understand what it's like for people in different departments, what it's like to walk in their shoes, is fundamental to collaboration and powerful group identity. And that's the real key when you think about this winning together, win as one. That's a real opportunity for us.
I have 1,000,001 questions in my head, and I don't know which one to use first, but it's also good. And I suppose every single certification that you've done, and probably similar to me, does relate back to business, because when you do speak to people and when you do speak with the business leaders and owners, like the point of going in there is talking about business and everything else. But I always find there's a bit of a crossover between business and personal. So you have to unpack each area and to find out which works in business and find out the personal things that's going on behind the scenes in the brain. That area, we start out in the business relationship and the context, and then it sort of drifts off into, well, we need to sort that area out as well.
Yes, for sure. And this is the thing about, I would say, the relationship and the communication part. It's not a training. If you do 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, it's all going to be perfect. And I think that's the real opportunity. Each individual is its own unique, we have our own experiences, way we came through life. And so what I can say in a way you might not be able to get away with, and vice versa. So it is about really finding one's own voice, and how is it that you can be who you are with another person to help them be who they are. And sure, there's similarities. I'm not saying it's dramatically different, but I do think that this notion of shared reality I coined, you have to find the words to say what you think needs to be said so that groups can bubble up. When we do have a different point of view, we've got to know it. I mean, you've been in these meetings, when you see people, like you know that person thinks this and that person thinks that, and they think the same thing, and you're just like, okay, but I know and so this goes on all day long where people aren't on the same page, and it's the root of a lot of dysfunction and friction at work.
Yeah, I've been in the corporate world as well, so I sort of understand that, and there is a lot of internal politics. From what I can see, my wife is in a big corporate in Ireland, the biggest Irish PLC that no one's ever heard of. But she deals with the internal politics on a day-to-day basis. And I'm listening, I'm going, okay, I would probably speak that way or communicate that way to that particular type of person. But it's very difficult without actually having the buy-in from those particular people when you're actually speaking to them. You have to get them. You have to build the rapport, you have to build the trust and respect. But you've also got to let them know, is this okay? And how would you deal with those situations?
Yeah, so this is a great one. And I get the quote unquote office politics. I also have observed a lot of people, well, this is just the way it is. Lowly me can't do anything about it. And I understand that. I have been there. I also feel that, you're born and you live and you die. And so you really have choices in life. If you're really at a place where the politics are so fierce, if you don't know the same right person or you don't say the right thing and you're going to be fired, that's pretty brutal to go to work in every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I might ask you to really look in the mirror and say, what holds me back? Why do I stay here? What is it that I feel about me where I really need to stay? And I'm not trying to be insensitive to people who need a job or what have you. But I think that it really starts within and your own self-worth and then what you can want to do. And if you want to do something and you tell all the people around you want to do it, there's a lot of people who want to help, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think for these situations where it just seems like this is how it is, it's revealing for the whole system a shared reality on, gosh, it really seems that people, and it may not, it's your perception. It feels like if you don't know the right person, you don't say the right thing, you can be really dinged. And I can imagine that this is hard for people to bring their full self to work. I'm wondering what people think. And, you can, when you're in a group, you'll start to see this, oh, here we go, that brave soul, let me get it up. So people are thinking it. And I'm just going to tell you, there are some leaders, okay, that's that relatively smallish percentage, that don't want to hear what you have to say and just want to run command and control. And that's fair. That's how they want it. And they say those are the rules and you sign up for that. That's fine. Most leaders don't drive to work. Oh, I'm going to make it so scary. No one is going to tell me what I need to do. Right? I definitely don't want to grow and be more self-aware. I mean, I don't know any leaders who say that. And so if the people put themselves in the leader's shoe and said, gosh, if I were doing something that wasn't particularly serving, or I was, unconscious about something, wouldn't I be grateful if someone told me?
Yeah.
And that might be a one-on-one thing if you have that relationship, but it might be in a group thing saying, look, totally honor that you're a big boss, you make the decisions. I just have to share, this is my experience, always valid to share your experience, not making anyone else bad or wrong. I'm wondering, if that's what others are feeling that, and can we talk about it? Can we bring it up? And this is the thing, I feel that a real opportunity in a lot of the leadership and management development has not equipped all leaders to necessarily have found their own voices and how to communicate. So I have a lot of compassion for some folks. It's a lot of pressure. I got to deliver. I don't have time to be empathetic. I don't have time to connect with people. So it does take a kind of getting off the treadmill to recalibrate and say, how do I really want to be as a leader? And by the way, leaders are telegraphing. You are exuding the actions for your organization.
Yeah.
So I see people like, oh, the people aren't doing X, Y, Z. I'm like, okay, we can blame the people. That's certainly valid. People can blame the boss. Again, it's certainly valid. Not sure that really gets us where we're going to go. So I just offer that.
Yeah, of course. And it'd be nice that everyone can, my analogy is that everyone jumps on the ship. And hopefully you're all moving in the same direction. But sometimes every now and again, people jump off on life rafts and move off in their own directions. So that's also a challenge as well, is getting people back onto the ship and they're all moving forward in the right direction. And at the moment, how do you see that? Because that we're all working from home. And how are you working with that right now?
I've been lucky because I've been, when I was at Cisco, for gosh sake, we invented this whole teleworking, working remotely.
Yes, you did.
It's never been new to me. It's been fundamentally a way of working, and I think that's been a big advantage for companies that's had that. I think to your point, for the leaders at this time, it's imperative to be crystal clear. And what again, I've always observed leaders, they say something and they think they've said it, and they have said it. Sometimes it's hard for them to realize that folks haven't received the message the way that they want it, right? So communication is not about what you say, it's about what people hear. Yeah. And so that's where it's incumbent upon the folks around to say, hey, we see how passionate and we get the deadline, and we just need to take a time out, because I'm not sure I'm really tracking as project manager why on this team. And I know that I can't do my best work for you if I'm not really clear. Could we spend a little more time on this? And so folks who, I just did on my radio show last week, a person said, a lot of partners were in a meeting and then they're like, okay, do you got everything you need? And he'll be like, blah, 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 blah. Really? But then he said, I find myself saying, yeah, yeah, I can work with that. So it is about just taking a breath, saying, look, we want everyone in this organization to be their best and do their best. That's how the organization is going to thrive. And if you don't have what you need, excuse me, I may have missed it. I'm sorry if I missed it. It's not crystal clear to me. Can we go over that again? Or I could hear you this way or that way. Which way do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Being the person to extend the olive branch, owning that you may not have gotten it. That's okay. Maybe you missed something, right? And then for leaders or whoever's on the receiving side, thank you so much. I'm sorry I wasn't clear. And this has been a big learning for me because defensiveness, blaming, I majored in all of those things, right? It's taken a while for me to have the self-awareness to say, obviously, I wasn't clear. So first of all, you own that, and that diffuses the situation right then and there. And then you can step in and say, okay, let me just go through. So let me try saying it in a different way. How does that work? Now we're engaging. Even though there might be a hierarchy, we're still peer individuals trying to understand one another.
Yeah, of course. And that you have to get that a thing called the mirror neurons in the brain, and you have to get them on side, but they also have to resonate with you. And so you can sort of jump into their shoes and see it from their point of view and a sort of a holistic point of view, but also jump back. Something that I was taught even on a spatial awareness is almost jumping out of your skin and looking at both of you from a different point of view. It takes a little bit of practice and a bit of work to do that. I'm not an expert, fully expert in that area, and it takes a lot of practice. So for yourself, it's building that trust and respect. And it's one of my beliefs and values is trust, respect, loyalty. But that's for me personally. That's one of my things that's been installed in me from my parents and my grandparents and so on and so forth. But what are your beliefs, values, and how do you see that working with other leaders or within your professional career?
Well, I think this notion of the values-based and the purpose-driven is really big, and I think for each person, whether you're technically a leader by title or you're just leading yourself, which is, of course, where leadership starts, it is just understanding what you value. And, the being true to oneself, for me, has been a journey to understand what that really is. When we come up through the ranks, there's a lot of peer pressure or external pressure that this is what good looks like, this is what will make you happy. And I feel that leaning into discovery about myself has opened a lot of opportunity, because I feel that that's helped me be able to then really see the goodness in all people around me when I'm more secure. And I think that everyone's a gem, everyone's got superpowers and geniuses. And if you're the person who can look someone in the eye and help them feel more confident and help them be their best, that's a no-lose situation, right? So if we can help people all feel honored. And I would say that most people in a company aren't, angling to be the top job. So they're not trying to fight each other and duke it out. They really just want to contribute, a solid day, be respected, be valued, and be part of something that is bigger than any one person could be.
I know Simon Sinek in his book, The Infinite Game. That happened to me actually the other week. I was on a podcast like this, and when I was talking about networking, said the one thing that you should do is switch your phone up. And immediately as I said that, my wife called, and it was on the live one. I went, what should we do? And we went, I'll just carry on. I went, oh, that's fine. But things like that happen all the time. And my son came in a couple of weeks ago, and he was shimmying on the floor, and I could see him on the floor coming in commando style, then popping his head up, and I went, and it was all fine, it was all good, and it adds a little bit more authenticity there, and other areas like that. And I know the thing of authenticity has been thrown around a little bit, but I think it's authenticity, but also showing your true self, vulnerability, and it's something that I've learned to do. And from reading your path and some of the other recordings that you've done, I've seen you've gone on a little bit of a journey recently as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I just appreciate you bringing this up, because to me it all starts with our own courage, and it's our courage to be vulnerable, right? We'll acknowledge Brene Brown for putting this into the universe. Yeah. Vulnerability is a must for trust, period.
Of course.
just is. And every leader I know wants trust. And if you say the word vulnerability, it's like, immediately hair is standing up on the back of their head. And, so this is to be able to create space for appropriate levels of vulnerability. It is a judgment call. We're not here to blather on everything. At the same time, we need to be real for each other. And, this whole, when people talk about their great CVs, like no one writes on their bio, I failed at this, I failed at that, I was last here. And so you have this, and this social media, I think, has magnified that tendency. And we're here because of the struggles. It's the challenges that have helped us rise to the occasion and learn. And let's just honor that and be upfront about it. And one of the things I think that I've been able to do is help create safe space for people to realize, I'm the only one holding myself back. And so if I'm not at one with my story, on my radio show, I invited people to come on in and do just that. It's cathartic for them, because a lot of folks have kind of I can't say that about me. It's not okay. And I understand that. And this whole say it skillfully thing, the short of it is to me, it's a big work injustice. 85% of the world's employees, according to Gallup, are disengaged or actively disengaged. So they're rowing backwards at work, right, for $7 trillion of lost economic productivity, which is just tragic from a brain power thing. I'm like, all this untapped potential on the planet. And then to know that people very senior through very junior are holding back. And that doesn't create fulfillment or meaningfulness at work, which to me, key thing of leadership is this taking people to a place that without you, they don't get to, and creating meaningfulness in people's lives. And so when I saw all that, I realized you hear a lot about psychological safety, and this is this trust thing. Yeah, you need it. I can give that to you in less than an hour. That's not that hard to do. What I find holds people back is if they can't find the words where they will honor themselves and others, meaning they won't look bad or look stupid or won't make someone else feel bad, then they still won't say it. And so that's what gave rise to this whole say it skillfully. And I still laugh because that first video, I was holding the phone, shaking a bit. My designer called me back after. He's like, tripods aren't that expensive. And I'm like, I'm not a tripod. I just didn't think that 30,000 people would see this little video. And so it started the whole thing. I mean, there's been over 1 million views of the videos. I got asked to do the radio show. And so it's part of Marshall's real inspiration for me to pay it forward and help people find your voice and use it. And by doing that, you get to this shared reality to get back to business. And when everyone's on the same page, you're going to make the best decisions, execute with speed, and get to greater outcomes. And that's a win, right? And so that's really the genesis for it.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And I love pay it forward or feed forward as opposed to feedback, because it sends it into such a positive space. And from when I heard that last year, I went, love it. I'm going to be using that all the time. I'm going to empower that, because feed forward is you're giving people, when you're coaching or when you're speaking to people, said, I think that's excellent. I think you've done really well here. But I think next time you should be doing this or try that or do that or do that. Because when you feed forward, and I know the other area of feeding forward is speaking to some wonderful people like yourself, giving up your time, and you're feeding forward to me so I can hopefully empower myself to give it to someone else. And that's the way the world goes, the way I look at things as well. So I get empowered by speaking to wonderful people like yourselves. How do you empower that message for other people?
So I think the positivity of that, and people think about, negative, positive. And when I say positive, I don't mean being delirious that you're denying reality.
Of course,
right? The teams that can be, and I use sports analogies all the time, but you're playing hockey, you're in the third period, there's 2 minutes left, you're 3 goals down, okay? And so it is the can do, we will make this happen, is not over till it's over, and that we have trained for and set up for this point in time. And I think that the ability to consider that stuff's going to happen. People are not going to understand the strategy. People are going to go off the reservation, like you say, and need to be pulled back. So how are we going to handle it? Let's not pretend that it's all going to be unicorns and rainbows, but let's figure out how we're going to handle the tough times. I think that's a big, big, big piece of it. The whole say it skillfully. I think the thing that I've landed on is it is about what is any one individual's driver for change. driver for change, not what the change is. People could Google how to be a better leader, how to lose weight, how to run faster. It is about what is it in each individual person that's going to ignite a sense of, wait a second. And what I found is that I'm part of the problem. In the whole, not saying it, it's easy to blame the boss. The boss hasn't made it safe for me. And sure, you can do that all day long and feel disempowered and somewhat of a victim. Or you could look in the mirror and say, you know what, even if it's 1%, how am I part of the problem? And the folks who genuinely, ask themselves that and are willing to listen to themselves say, you know what, if I think about that, I probably didn't set that up very well to let the other person, be honest. And so if everybody owns their piece, they're all part of the problem. I think if everyone's a little bit more skillful, then that's how you can be more part of the solution. Yeah. It's that little incremental change, but multiplied across millions and millions, that I think is transforming to how we interact with each other.
I think that's absolutely perfectly well presented and well said. I always have an analogy of a washing machine. I don't know why, but when it's going around like that. So imagine your brain going around like that with all these thoughts spinning around like that. And they're constantly going like that. But every now and again, all you have to do is press stop and all your thoughts calm right down. And that's my sort of an analogy of your brain's going like that and you're in business and you think about this, that, and the other, and everything's going all over the place. But when you actually start to relax and calm down, your thoughts are a little bit more rational and a little bit more forgiving. But for me, it's finding that button.
Yes, I have clients who I've gotten to meditate that being in the zone notion, Jason, you hit it. And the ability to close one's eyes, even if it's 2 minutes, and breathe and just focus on the air coming in and out of your body, and with each breath relaxing, that flow, more of a flow state, is going to help us think more clearly, act in a better way. And I think, I've worked with folks, again, even if it's a few minutes, and then it becomes addictive because you realize that, some of the best ideas I have are like when I'm in this very free state, where you quote unquote, you may have thoughts, but you're just kind of not letting them carry you away. Yeah. And there's, I just think that that's a huge, huge, huge opportunity for people to really be present for themselves. And then you can be present for others, people we care most about. And then together you can do your best work. And it's just a win, win, win.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I'm totally in there. I don't get it all the time myself, but I do my best. As I say, I like to go up into the mountains and run. So my head is all free and I come back absolutely energized and I'm back into it. So it's getting people. So what would, it's a standard textbook question now. So we've gone on the flow, but for your 23 something person, what advice would you give for a budding entrepreneur, budding person that's going up the ranks, but a little bit unstructured, probably like me back in my day, not knowing where I was going, but I definitely had a gift of doing something, but wasn't quite sure what that was. What would you give back? Long-faluting question there, but hopefully you can get something out of that.
Yeah, I think the entrepreneurial spirit. So there's that. I think you can apply that in a big company. You can apply that to starting your own company. So I would broadly say the being grounded in one's own self is really huge, and realizing that it is an ongoing journey, and to give yourself permission to be who you are meant to be, which I think can feel a bit scary. To quote Marshall, what got us here won't get us there. We can achieve certain levels of success a certain way, and it can be really hard to let go of that way. The folks who are willing to let go, kind of take it to an edge and see how else you might be able to do something. I think those are great dividends. And then obviously bringing others along, and that ability to lean in. And by this, I really don't being mushy or touchy-feely or kumbaya, just giving people a chance to be who they are, to honor each other, and then to think about how do we want to work together. When you have the trust, when you have really capable people, and when people do what they say they're going to do, you can fly. And again, I don't want to oversimplify, but I think at this time in particular, getting back to basics is a really solid strategy.
Yes, because some people can overcomplicate the process, and it can get very confusing for the brain. And as we know, like the neocortex and the limbic system, if you give too much data, people get confused. But if you simplify it, it's the same old acronym, which is keep it simple, stupid, or keep it, or whatever the acronyms. There's lots of them out there. So as long as they understand that, but it's been an absolute pleasure today, and I've really thoroughly enjoyed. I genuinely mean I thoroughly enjoyed this chat, and I'm sure we could chat for probably another half an hour or an hour more. But we want to keep everyone stimulated, so let's packet it nice. So how can people find you? I put your logos above that way, above your head. So
yes, I appreciate first. Thank you. My gratitude to you, Jason, for the time. It's been a gift to me. I would love for folks to go to sayitskillfully.com. I do have a mailer, and I'll just mail out the latest video. And to be part of the solution, I appreciate people sharing it. I invite folks to join the radio show. And if you go to the site about Molly, there's links to get to the radio show. And I really love people when they call in live. So anyone who wants to call in live with me, I would love to take your question. And the LinkedIn folks, certainly follow me on LinkedIn, join the conversation. And you know, I really mean it. Being part of the solution, sharing this, letting people know, look, I'm here, I'm learning, I'm growing, and let's grow together. That's just a great way forward for all of us.
I absolutely, totally agree with that. And learning is the best way for the brain and the mind and everything else. And sharing it and sharing the love as well gives you a really good feeling inside. And that does for me as well. So again, I really appreciate that. And thank you again.
My pleasure. Take care, Jason.